Instinct is a survival mechanism. For 3 months, mine had been screaming that the woman sleeping next to me, Isabella, was a stranger. The distance had grown steadily, and as a man who built his career on detecting flaws in security systems, I couldn't ignore the one fracturing my own home. I run the tech division at Stratton Solutions in Miami. We secure major corporations, and our name is synonymous with integrity. It's why we sponsored the industry's Apex Awards with $3 million annually. This year, that investment was about to blow up in my face. Isabella was nominated for Marketing Director of the Year. Her obsession with the award was the first red flag. Tuesday dinners became client meetings, and weekends became strategy sessions. Her phone became an extension of her hand. 2 weeks ago, I heard her on a call in the study. Her voice was soft, a conspiratorial whisper I hadn't heard in years. When she noticed me in the doorway, her tone shifted instantly. "I'll send those reports tomorrow." "Thanks, Ricardo," she said with professional coldness before hanging up. Ricardo Brennan, her CEO at Convergent Media, a man of expensive suits and an overly polished smile. That night, I didn't sleep. At 3 in the morning, while she slept, I contacted Marcos, a private investigator our firm sometimes used for background checks. "I need discreet surveillance on my wife and her boss, Ricardo Brennan. Start now," I texted. I wasn't going to wait for the disaster to hit me. I was going to anticipate it. Days before the awards, Marcos sent a preliminary report. Photos of them at lunch, yes. But there was more. "I found more than just lunches, Alex," his message read. Last night, from a cafe near her office, she transferred a 150 gigabytes encrypted file to a cloud storage account registered to Ricardo. I don't know what's in it, but it's not a marketing report. My blood ran cold. Stratton Solutions was developing Cerberus, a new predictive security system poised to change the market. A file that size could only be the prototype. The betrayal was no longer just personal, it was corporate. The night before the awards, I confronted her, but not how she expected. "Isabella, I know tonight is important to you," I said calmly. "It's also important to my company. Don't do anything we'll both regret." She looked at me with disdain. "Don't try to control me. I know exactly what I'm going to say." It was her last chance. The night of the Apex Awards arrived. The Grand Hotel ballroom was packed. I saw Isabella across the room, laughing with Ricardo. The way her eyes lit up when she looked at him was the only proof I needed of the emotional affair. I walked over to their group, gave a professional smile, and shook Ricardo's hand. "Good luck to the finalists," I said, looking directly at my wife. She avoided my gaze. The Marketing Director of the Year category was announced. When they called her name, Isabella stood and hugged Ricardo. The embrace was too long, too intimate. She went to the stage, took the award, and found me in the front row. For a moment, a part of me wanted to be wrong. "I want to thank everyone who supported me," she began. "But I especially want to thank my true partner, the person who truly saw my potential. Ricardo, thank you for everything. This award belongs to both of us." The silence in the room was absolute. I felt 300 pairs of eyes on me, but I didn't feel humiliation. I felt a strange calm. The switch had been flipped. My plan was no longer a possibility, it was a certainty. I rose slowly, buttoned my jacket, and, without making a sound, pulled out my phone. I sent a single text to my VP of marketing. "Cancel the Apex sponsorship. Immediately. Draft a press release citing an irreconcilable conflict of interest." I put my phone away and walked toward the exit, without looking back. Revenge isn't served hot, it's served with surgical precision. The drive from the hotel was quiet, a stark contrast to the frantic buzzing of my phone in the console. I didn't check it. Each vibration was just a confirmation of the chaos I had unleashed. I wasn't angry. I was executing a protocol. When a system is breached, you don't rage. You isolate the threat, assess the damage, and deploy countermeasures. That's what I was doing. I checked into a hotel I'd booked 2 weeks prior under a personal account. Contingency planning. I entered the room, the door clicking shut behind me, and finally looked at my phone. 43 missed calls. 27 from Isabella, 16 from Ricardo, and other numbers I didn't recognize. I deleted the call log and sent a message to Marcos, my investigator. "It's done. I need everything you have compiled, and I need you to escalate surveillance on their communications. They're panicking. Record it all." His reply came within minutes. "Already on it. You were right." He called her the second the news about the sponsorship hit their table. He's furious, blaming her for being so public. She's calling him a coward for not defending her. Convergence board has called an emergency 7 a.m. meeting. Their partnership was already fracturing under the first wave of pressure. Good. My next call was to my lawyer, Lawrence Pritchard. Lawrence, it's Alex. It happened. I saw the video, he said, his voice grim. It's already all over industry message boards. Where are you? Secure. I need to see you first thing in the morning. My office at 8. Bring everything. I have more than just infidelity, Lawrence. I have evidence of corporate espionage. There was a brief pause on the line. 8 o'clock. Don't be late. The next morning, I walked into Lawrence's office and laid out the entire situation. The emotional distance, the lies, the public humiliation. Then I dropped the final file on his desk, Marcos's preliminary report, detailing the encrypted 150 gigabytes file transfer of the Cerberus prototype. Lawrence stared at the document, his expression shifting from a divorce lawyer's professional sympathy to a litigator's sharp focus. Alex, this changes everything, he said, looking up. The prenup protects your assets, but this is a bazooka. With documented proof that she transferred your company's most valuable intellectual property to a competitor's CEO, we can argue dissipation of marital assets on a scale that will leave her with absolutely nothing. We could even explore criminal charges. No criminal charges, I said firmly. I don't want a circus. I want a swift, clean amputation. File for divorce this morning. I want her served by the end of the day. And I want the petition to explicitly cite both adultery and conspiracy to commit corporate espionage. Lawrence nodded, already making notes. Consider it done. They won't know what hit them. As I left his office, I sent another instruction to Marcos. Package the evidence of Ricardo's misuse of the company credit card for his hotel stays with Isabella. Send it anonymously to the head of Convergent Media's audit committee. Make sure it's untraceable. I was no longer just a victim. I was a strategist, pushing the pieces into place. My phone rang as I got into my car. It was Isabella. This time, I answered. What have you done? She shrieked, her voice a mix of fury and panic. You pulled the funding? You've ruined me. Your career? I asked, my voice devoid of emotion. You made your choice of partner very clear on stage. Let Ricardo fund it. This is about that stupid speech? I was just thanking him for his support. She cried. I let the silence hang in the air for a moment before delivering the final blow. Was transferring 150 gigabytes of my company's intellectual property to him also just thanking him? The silence on the other end was absolute. I could almost hear the blood draining from her face. I had just confirmed her worst fear. I knew everything. My lawyer will be in touch, I said coolly. Don't contact me again. I hung up before she could respond, leaving her in the ruins of the world she had so carefully tried to build. The first countermeasure was complete. Now, it was time for the fallout. The anonymous package that landed on the desk of Convergent Media's audit committee chair was the accelerant on a fire already raging. The board was incandescent over the $3 million hole in their budget and the public relations nightmare Isabella had created. The package, containing neatly organized hotel receipts paid for with Ricardo's corporate card, all for undeclared afternoon meetings, gave their fury a target. A formal investigation was launched immediately. Ricardo Brennan's company devices were confiscated, his accounts frozen, and his professional life placed under a microscope. His panic manifested as a call to Isabella. The romantic partner from the awards stage was gone, replaced by a cornered executive fighting for survival. What did you tell him? Ricardo demanded, his voice a harsh whisper. He knows about the file. The file, Isabella. How could you be so stupid? Me? You're the one who told me to get it. You said it was the only way to secure our future. She shot back, her voice trembling. Our future is a criminal investigation if we don't fix this. He hissed. They're investigating me. We need to get our story straight. The transfer was an accident. You sent the wrong file. Stick to that story. He wasn't asking. He was giving an order. He was building a firewall, and she was on the other side of it. He hung up, leaving her with the distinct feeling that he would not hesitate to sacrifice her to save himself. Her terror was compounded an hour later when a process server delivered the divorce petition. She tore it open, her eyes scanning the legal text until they landed on the official grounds: adultery and conspiracy to commit corporate espionage. The words felt like a physical blow. This wasn't just a divorce, it was a potential indictment. Her career, her freedom, everything was on the line. She frantically called Ricardo again. The call went straight to voicemail. He had already cut her loose. Desperate, she hired the first lawyer she could find. Within hours, her attorney called mine. My client is willing to discuss a quiet and amicable settlement, the lawyer began, attempting a confident tone. Lawrence Pritchard cut him off. There is nothing amicable about this situation. Your client conspired to steal intellectual property valued in the 9 figures. Our opening position is this. She signs a non-disclosure agreement, forfeits all claims to any marital assets, and we agree not to forward our evidence to the district attorney's office. Your client gets to walk away with her freedom and nothing else. You have 24 hours to advise her to accept. The line went silent as the weight of the ultimatum landed. I received the update from Lawrence while reviewing the Cerberus project plan. We would have to delay the launch, alter key algorithms, and invest another $1 million to ensure the stolen prototype was useless. It was a costly consequence, but a manageable one. My company would survive. Isabella's and Ricardo's careers would not. Late that afternoon, I received a final text from Marcos. Convergent Media's board has suspended Ricardo Brennan, effective immediately. He's been escorted from the building and locked out of all systems. They're scrubbing his digital footprint. I read the message, a cold sense of finality washing over me. The second domino had fallen. Ricardo, her true partner, was gone. Isabella was now completely and utterly alone, facing the consequences of her choices without her protector. The board had made its move. Now it was her turn. The 24-hour deadline passed in silence. Then, just as Lawrence had predicted, Isabella's lawyer called back, his tone stripped of its earlier bravado. He made a desperate attempt to negotiate. My client is a first-time offender in a difficult personal situation. She's willing to sign the NDA, but she needs some transitional financial support, just enough to get back on her feet. Lawrence's response was ice. Your client is a conspirator who attempted to cripple my client's company. The transitional support she is getting is our agreement not to pursue criminal charges. That offer expires in 1 hour. After that, all evidence goes to the district attorney, and you can explain her difficult personal situation to a grand jury. 59 minutes later, they accepted the terms. The divorce was processed with brutal efficiency. I signed the papers in Lawrence's office without ever having to see her. She forfeited all claims to our assets, the house, and any future earnings. She walked away with the car she drove and her personal belongings. The marriage was legally terminated less than a week after the awards night. Simultaneously, the axe fell at Convergent Media. Firing Isabella outright would have been messy, a potential lawsuit they didn't need. Instead, their solution was far more cruel. My contact on their board informed me she had been reassigned. They moved her to a newly created role in long-term archival management, a dead-end position with no staff, no budget, and no path for advancement. It was a corporate tune. They had taken her ambition, the very thing that drove her to betray me, and buried it alive under a mountain of digital paperwork. She was now a ghost in the machine she had tried to master. I arranged for her to retrieve the last of her things from the house on a Saturday morning. I intended to be gone, to have the final transaction handled by a third party. But as I stood in the living room, surrounded by neatly packed boxes that represented 5 years of a shared life, I realized I needed to close this loop myself. She arrived alone. When I opened the door, her composure cracked. It was the first time we had seen each other since the awards night. You didn't have to do this, Alex, she began, her voice a raw whisper. You could have just left. You didn't have to destroy me. Destroy you? I replied, my voice level. I didn't do anything. I just let you execute your own plan. I simply made sure you couldn't escape the consequences. She shook her head, confusion and anger warring in her eyes. Because of a speech? You torched our lives over one stupid speech? I almost laughed. You still don't get it. The speech wasn't the cause. It was the trigger. I knew everything before you ever stepped on that stage, Isabella. I knew about the hotel rooms. I knew about the late-night calls. And yes, I knew about the Cerberus prototype you downloaded for him. Her face went white. She took an involuntary step back, as if the words themselves had pushed her. I gave you a chance, I continued, my voice unwavering. The night before the awards. I told you not to do anything we would both regret. That was your moment to pull back. But you were too arrogant. You were so sure of your victory, so convinced I was a fool, that you walked right into the trap I had set. Trap? She stammered. My lawyer was on standby. My investigator was monitoring your communications in real time. The anonymous tip to your board was ready to go. All I had to do was wait for you to humiliate me in front of 300 of our colleagues. You handed me the moral high ground and the perfect justification for everything that came next. You didn't thank a partner, Isabella. You activated a kill switch on your own life. Tears were streaming down her face now, but they were tears of shock and comprehension, not sorrow. She finally understood that she hadn't been caught in an act of revenge. She had been the unwitting author of her own demise. So, no, I said, taking a step toward the door to hold it open. I didn't destroy you. You did. Ricardo just gave you the rope. Now, please take your things and go. She stood frozen for a long moment, broken. Then, without another word, she picked up the first box and carried it out to her car. I watched her go, feeling nothing but the quiet, clean finality of a problem solved. A year can erase a lot. In the fast-moving world of tech, my divorce was ancient history. The Apex Awards had been sold to a new events company, desperate to scrub the stain of the previous year's disaster. Ricardo Brennan, I'd heard through a former colleague, was last seen selling enterprise software in a different state, his CEO ambitions permanently torched. Isabella's LinkedIn profile showed she had left Convergent Media and was now working as a freelance marketing consultant from her hometown. A quiet, unceremonious end to a career she had been willing to sacrifice everything for. They were ghosts, irrelevant to my present. My present was defined by forward momentum. The redesigned Cerberus system became the new industry standard, and our stock soared. My decision to pull the Apex sponsorship, once seen as a dramatic act of personal revenge, was now hailed in business journals as a decisive move to protect corporate integrity. The board created the role of Chief Strategy Officer for me, entrusting me with the company's expansion into Europe and Asia. I had not just survived, I had capitalized on the chaos. The house, once a silent monument to a failed marriage, now felt like my own again. I had reclaimed the space. 6 months ago, at a cybersecurity conference, I was on a panel discussing crisis management. After the talk, a woman named Sarah introduced herself. She was a partner at a venture capital firm, and instead of offering sympathies about my well-known past, she challenged a point I'd made about market vulnerabilities. We ended up debating for nearly an hour, the intellectual sparring more engaging than any conversation I'd had in years. She was direct, intelligent, and saw me not as a character in an industry scandal, but as a peer. Our first coffee meeting became a weekly occurrence. We talked about tech, investments, and the ethics of innovation. It was a relationship built on a shared language of ambition and ideas, a stark contrast to the emotional debt and unspoken resentments that had defined the end of my marriage. With Sarah, there were no hidden agendas, only transparent debate and mutual respect. One night, an email arrived. The sender address was unfamiliar, but the subject line, an apology, stopped me cold. My first instinct was to delete it, to deny her even the possibility of a response. But I opened it, reading it with the detached curiosity of a historian examining a relic. Alex, it read, I know I have no right to ask for your attention. What I did was unforgivable, and I've spent this past year in therapy trying to understand the person I was. My actions came from a place of deep insecurity. I needed to prove my worth and chose the most destructive way possible. There is no excuse. I just wanted to say that I am truly, deeply sorry. I hope you are happy. I read it once, then a second time. I felt nothing. No anger, no pity, not even the faint satisfaction of victory. It was like reading a corporate apology for a product that had been recalled years ago. Her pain and her journey were hers alone. They no longer had any access to my system. Sarah came into the study, placing a hand on my shoulder. You look a million miles away, she said softly. Just an old system error report, I said, and permanently deleted the email. Already resolved. She accepted my answer without question. Good, because I need your full attention. My firm has greenlit my proposal to launch a new fund, one focused exclusively on next-gen security and AI ethics. I'll be the managing partner, but I need a co-founder. Someone who understands the tech from the inside out, who knows how to build teams and execute strategy. Someone who isn't afraid to make hard decisions. She was offering me an exit from Stratton, an opportunity to build something from the ground up on our own terms. It was a monumental risk. But as I looked at her, I realized the greater risk was staying put, remaining defined by a company and a history that, while successful, was still tied to the man I used to be. I had spent a year rebuilding. She was offering me a chance to build something entirely new. A new venture has its risks, I said, a slow smile forming. But I've learned that avoiding risk is a strategy for stagnation. Her expression brightened. So you'll consider it? I'm already past considering, I replied. When do we start? The future was no longer about recovering from the past. It was about creating it.